Sabres are in a playoff spot. Kinda. We'll tell you why next year on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Joe DiBiase here on the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in, wherever you may be listening. Subscribe, hit the like button, drop a comment in, drop a tweet as well at Locked On Sabres or at Sneaky Joe Sports. Our episode today is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. Speaking of FanDuel, our betting segment from yesterday did not go so hot against the St. Louis Blues, but a win, which is more important. The Sabres win against the Blues 5-3. We'll recap it here on the show, tell you what happened around the league, where they are in the standings. And today's a very interesting day to talk about the standings because the Sabres are right there. They are knocking on the door, and depending on how you categorize the standings, you could even see them in a spot, but we'll explain a little bit later on. The betting night, not good for me. I had been having a good couple of weeks. If you had been, following along with our betting advice night by night for the Sabres, it's been going pretty well. Last night did not go well. 0 for 3. Jordan Binnington over 28.5 saves. Nope. Over 6.5 or under 6.5 goals. Nope. Victor Olofsson to score a goal. Nope. Nothing. 0 for 3. Didn't go well. One of my worst betting nights of the year, not just for the Sabres, but in hockey in general. I had Montreal plus a goal and a half. I did have the under on Colorado, Washington. So I hit on that, but otherwise it was not good. Not good at all for me. But anyways, it was good for the Sabres, and that's what matters most. The Sabres get the win over the Blues 5-3 in a very adventurous game. The Sabres had a 4-0 lead. 4-0. They came out of the gates flying. They scored in the opening minute again. They have done that 6 times, which is one of the highest marks in franchise history. Their 6th opening goal of the season. That was in the first period. Then they did it again in the second period. So they came out hot in both the first and the second. They got to that early 3-0 lead. They kind of sat on it for a lot of the first period. Then the second period, they come out and they come out firing again. A very skilled goal by Tage Thompson. And then here come the Blues. I don't really think the play was that one-sided. It's not like Sabres got up 4-0 and they sat back and they let the Blues come to them and they played conservative. In fact, I think the Sabres actually played aggressive for a lot of that second and third period, especially in the third period. I mean, there were times with 5-6 minutes to go in that 4-on-4. There was the 4-on-4 in the third period, matching roughing penalties for Kyle Okposo. And forgive me for forgetting the Blues defensemen that hate Peyton Krebs. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And there's the Sabres. They're chasing behind the net. There's a forechecker chasing behind the net, causing an odd man rush going the other way. They were playing ultra aggressive, despite the fact they were up 1 goal. And maybe that was because they had allowed 3 and they felt like they weren't going to be able to get home with just 4. They needed to score another goal to be able to win that game. I don't know. I don't mind it. I like it. In fact, I get annoyed when they park the bus. I get annoyed when they play ultra conservative just because they're winning. So I liked that strategy by the Sabres. And I would say that it's something that Don Granato has not done a lot, and I did see it in this night. But either way, 3 goals unanswered by the Blues, made it 4-3. The power play late. It definitely got scary if you were watching that as a Sabre fan, thinking, oh, they're going to tie it. They're going to tie it. The third goal goes in the first minute of the third period. The third goal by the Blues to make it 4-3. It didn't every Sabres fan collectively just go, oh, here we go. They're going to do it. They're going to blow the lead. They didn't. And then the power play that they get late in the game, Peyton Krebs takes a penalty on a faceoff. Didn't right then you think, this is where they tie it, and they win the game. but they didn't. Sabres did a great job hunkering down in that third period after it was a one-goal game. They played very well defensively, I thought, for a lot of times. And Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen played great in the third period. Fantastic in the third period. Now, we got lucky on one. That one by Vladimir Tarasenko. The hockey gods smiled down upon the Sabres, and they gave them a break because Vladimir Tarasenko beat Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen on a wrist shot from the right side, over the shoulder, over the blocker, and the tippy top of Luukkonen's stick got the puck. And it hit it cleanly, and the puck hit that top of the stick square. It could have just nicked it and still gone in, but it hit it square and did not go in. That was some luck right there. But otherwise, Luukkonen made some big saves, point-blank chances. That wasn't Tarasenko's only chance. He had 3 or 4 in the third period and was able to get through it. So a great game by the Sabres. They get the goals early on. A lot of chances in and around the net. They did not, or they did outshoot the Blues in this game, 31-28. So they outshot them in terms of shot attempts in this game. That's the one that went in favor of St. Louis, but it's pretty even, 34-31 at 5-on-5 in favor of the Blues. So a pretty even game, I would think, when you kind of quantify it all together. First, of course, 35 minutes belonged to the Sabres, and then after that, it was a lot of Blues in terms of scoring chances. But an even game and a good win. The Sabres' first win in St. Louis since 2009. This team has not won in St. Louis since 2009, when Tim Connolly and Mike Greer scored goals. That's how long it had been. But they get the win here on the road. And an interesting thing about the Sabres in the standings, now if they win this game against the Blues, they have a great road record. They're 8th in the NHL in points percentage on the road, 14-7-1 on the road versus 11-12-2 at home. And Sabermetrics, I'll give credit where credit is due there. They at Sabermetrics on Twitter, they tweeted out this morning that the Sabres actually have a very good record at home when it comes to attendance. 5-2 at home when there's 17,000+ fans in attendance. 6-10-2 at home when there's fewer than 17,000 fans in attendance. So, big games in Dallas and Boston and these Toronto, high energy buildings, big atmospheres. The Sabres kind of live up to the pressure of big atmosphere, energy in the building. They're a young team. That makes a little bit of sense. So Sabre fans, get in that arena. It's happening more recently anyway. A lot of sellouts recently. But the Sabres, I mean, there is evidence. They are playing better when there are fans in the building or when they are on the road and there are big atmospheres, as evidenced by their great road record and their 5-2 record when there's 17,000 fans or more in the building at home. So, but the Sabres on the road, just that has kept them in this race and allowed them to be in the race, is they're 8th in the NHL in points percentage on the road. And now a 4-game win streak to talk about here. Our goat head of the night, our MVP of the night for the Sabres, the number 1 star of the game in the game as well. Pretty easy, Tage Thompson. 1 goal, 2 assists, sort of a revenge game. He's had revenge games against the Blues already, but here it is now it happens in St. Louis. A goal and 2 assists, all very nice, skilled plays. I mean, that first assist he has to Jeff Skinner, that's a skilled play. That is Thompson sucking pressure down low. And, maybe last year, Thompson just shoots that puck on a backhand and just whips it on the net. But instead, he has the wherewithal to recognize, Skinner is roaring down the slot. And all I got to do is put this somewhere in his wheelhouse, and he's going to blast it. He's going to blast it home. And he does. He does. Skinner blasts it, and he scores the goal. And he gets his first assist there. The second assist comes a little bit later on, not too much later on. And then the goal is a skilled play as well. Tuck with a little drop back pass. Skinner kind of flubs it, and Thompson goes little smooth forehand, backhand toe drag, and just a little soft backhand into the net over past Jordan Pennington. So for his second goal in his last 10 games, he gets back in the goal scoring column. But it wasn't just the points in this game. Thompson advanced numbers were incredible. He was number one on the team in expected goals for with 72.4%. He was number one in Corsi percentage, shot attempts, 70.59 percentage. He had 9 scoring chances when they were on the ice, the Sabres did, and they had 4 against. So 9 scoring chances when Tage was on the ice, 4 when against. And also, that's a pretty goal. First time, long time for a pretty goal. I mean, this guy was scoring highlight reel goals every night for 2 months, and that kind of went away a little bit. A nice goal here by Thompson to get back in the goal column and hopefully get back on track. That line, kind of a throwback for the Sabres. That's not really how they've been winning games in January. They've been winning games in January with a balanced lineup. The Middlestat Olofsson line contributing at 5-on-5, the Thompson line contributing at 5-on-5 here and there, Okposo, Krebs scoring goals. Of course, Dylan Cousins leading his line. Every line is kind of contributed here and there. A nice balanced lineup. That was more of a win last night that they had back in October, where it was a one-line show. And it was. I mean, all of those first 4 goals were scored by that first line. Even the Owen Power goal, that's an assist by, I think Skinner makes the pass, if I'm remembering correctly here. Let me double check that on the Gamecast for you. Owen Power, Thompson got the assist, but Paterko was on the ice as well. So maybe they were a little bit in between a shift. But that was where Thompson's second assist came. Power scores the goal, but otherwise, Thompson's on the ice for all 4 goals. Skinner scores 1, Tuck scores 1, Tage scores 1. He gets an assist on the power goal. That was a one-line show by the Sabres on the night. Don't get me wrong, other guys played well. Cousins makes a great effort on that empty net goal to kind of push the puck away from the Blues, backhanded from center ice and in. I didn't think the Okposo line had a good night at all. Krebs did well, but I didn't think Girgensons or Okposo did. So kind of a one-line show. Tage Thompson, star of the night, as our goat head of the night. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about this game. My Explain Yourself segment. I had some tweets out that I want to explain from Sabres and Blues. And then a look at the standings and the playoff races. We take a sail across the Atlantic. That is ahead here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. And we are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL playoffs are here. We are really excited to tell you about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they are the number 1 sportsbook in America, FanDuel. And if you are new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that makes betting on sports fun and easy. New customers join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. All on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. I like some bets coming up in tomorrow's game against the Winnipeg Jets. So come back tomorrow on the show, and I'll have my betting preview for Buffalo versus Winnipeg before the game on Thursday night. So hockey fans, football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/LockedOnNHL. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. All right, I'm going to explain myself here. Time to explain myself. Going to go through my tweets, break them down, thoughts that I had during the game, kind of my notebook for the game. And we will start with something that we talked about on our last show, which, by the way, you can check out on our YouTube channel or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Just go back into the feed, find the last one, a little more detailed on this subject. Timo Meier. Timo Meier of the San Jose Sharks. He is potentially available for trade. And what we had was a report on Tuesday from Dave Pagnotta of the Fourth Period that said the Sabres were a team linked to Timo Meier and the San Jose Sharks, who is an upcoming restricted free agent, 30-plus goal scorer, 26 years old, needs a contract, but a great player, right winger, can play left wing as well. Pierre LeBrun of TSN confirmed that the Sabres have made contact with the Sharks regarding Timo Meier. So a little bit more of a trustworthy source. I think Dave Pagnotta is a reliable source. He broke the John Tavares news way back when for Toronto. He breaks stories every year. But this is LeBrun. Like, LeBrun is almost the Schefter of the NHL. So LeBron confirmed the Sabres have made contact with the Sharks regarding Timo Meier. This is a star player. He plays out in San Jose, so he's not quite a household name among casual hockey fans, but hardcore NHL fans know this player, know he is a great talent, point per game player, 30 plus goals. And I think, one thing I didn't mention on the show on Tuesday that I think could make sense for Meier and why the Sabres would be into this is he could kind of be the partner in crime for Dylan Cousins. Cousins is having a phenomenal season, but Jack Quinn, JJ Peterka just been a little streaky. They're rookies. They've been some down moments. I think they're great talents. I think that is a line that could play for years to come on this team. But Timo Meier would help get the most out of Dylan Cousins and kind of give him a reliable scorer night to night that he doesn't consistently have at the moment. So I like the idea of Meier with Cousins if the Sabres were to acquire him. It's a big move. They would have to figure out the contract. One thing LeBron mentioned that Pagnotta did not is teams are trying to get permission from the San Jose Sharks to talk contract with Meier before acquiring him. My best guess, given the Sabres' recent history with guys like Sam Reinhart and Ristolainen and Eichel and, not wanting to get burned by a guy that could tell them, oh, I'm going to walk to free agency in a year. And then you either, one, are going to lose him for nothing, or two, you're going to have to sell him for a depleted price that or the pennies on the dollar. If the Sabres can get clarity on the contract before trading for Meier, I think that is the only way they would make a deal like this. It's just a guess. I don't know that, but my guess would be Sabres want to figure out, can we get a contract done with you before we actually trade, a first round pick in Noah Ostlund? Because he would not come cheap, especially if a contract comes with it. Now that would be the price you pay. The Sharks would know this. The Sharks would know his price won't be as high if you're going to take on uncertainty. If you are going to take on risk of not knowing whether or not there's a contract, he's not going to cost as much. But this is why I think the Sharks should let him talk. They could get more. The Sabres would have to pay more. You're not just getting Timo Meier, you're getting Timo Meier in a brand new 8-year contract or 7-year contract, and he's going to be around. So, but my thought right immediately, a guy like Noah Ostlund, Isaac Rosén, a first-round prospect. I would like if the Sabres can stay away from trading Yuri Kulik or Matthew Savoy. But, Ostlund in a first is my first thought for a package for Timo Meier. My next tweet, in Bettman's NHL, this isn't a penalty, and it's the hit of Mikkola from the Blues crushing Peyton Krebs from behind in the third period on Tuesday night. In Bettman's NHL, this isn't a penalty, but grazing the puck with your glove off the faceoff is. Now, that is a reference to the penalty at the end of the game. The Sabres were shorthanded where they scored their empty net goal. Krebs goes down on the faceoff. By the way, I actually don't think Peyton Krebs was trying to touch the puck with his glove. It looked like that, and you could still argue it's dumb what he did. I think what Krebs was trying to do was almost shovel the puck with the shaft of his stick. And that you could say is dumb because it's going to be hard for the refs to see that. It's going to look like to them from a distance, oh, you're trying to move the puck with your glove. And he could sell all he wants to, hey, I move the puck with my shaft. It's a tough sales pitch to the ref. You have to think about how the ref's not in a great position to see that because it's such an imperfect science, and these guys are terrible at their jobs in the National Hockey League. You can't count on them getting that right. But anyways, that wasn't the point. The point was Krebs got destroyed from behind, the most textbook hit from behind boarding penalty you've ever seen in your life. It was closer to a 5-minute penalty than it was to being a non-penalty. The Sabres defend him. Kyle Okposo goes in after the guy pushing match, but I can't believe that wasn't a penalty. The refs swallowed their whistles on that one, and that was dangerous. It is dangerous, and it is so freaking stupid that refs think, oh, I'm not going to decide the game by putting my whistle away at the end of games, when in reality, all they are doing is deciding games. That's all they're doing. They're deciding the game in that moment. They're deciding to give the Blues an advantage of, oh, you could cheat here. You could do something that is illegal. We're not going to punish you for it. How is that not deciding the game? It's just ridiculous. Next tweet. Poetic justice that the Sabres built one of the best lines in hockey with the trade returns of Jack Eichel, Ryan O'Reilly, and Cliff Pooh. I thought this would just be funny. That's just some comic relief here. That was a great night by the Thompson line. Thompson, of course, in the Ryan O'Reilly deal. Tuck comes back in the Jack Eichel deal. And Skinner got traded for Cliff Poo. Just a little friendly reminder that somehow the Carolina Hurricanes decided to trade Jeff Skinner for Cliff Poo, who, by the way, now plays in China. He plays for Kunlun Red Star of the KHL, so nowhere near the NHL. And then, you know what? A little bit of a low blow. I didn't need to do this. We haven't done our Hack Eichel report in a while, which we started the season with as a segment here on the show. Got away from it. Vegas was too good. Wasn't fun anymore. You know what? Firing it back up. I fired it back up on Twitter. I'll fire it back up here. The Hack Eichel report. I tweeted on top of that Poetic Justice tweet. By the way, Jack Eichel now has 1 goal and 1 assist in his last 8 games while getting called out publicly by his coach, but who's counting? Again, low blow. I had a Vegas fan, and like, why are we bringing up Eichel? I get it. They're probably shouldn't have, but it is kind of funny that right now Vegas is starting to turn on him. Search Eichel's name on either the Golden Knights Reddit or on Twitter, and you're gonna find a lot of upset Golden Knights fans. And the coach publicly calling him out. That's something. I don't think that ever happened in Buffalo. I don't think. I'd have to think back. Did Bilesma ever do it? Did Housley ever do it? I don't think Kruger ever did it. Kruger would call it Jeff Skinner in public. But Eichel's got 1 goal and 1 assist in his last 8 games. Not going well. They lost again last night to the Devils. They're starting to lose. They're in a good enough spot where they make the playoffs, I'm assuming. But yeah, not going well for Jack Eichel. My next tweet, and this is where we'll take a timeout and talk about this more in the next segment, our Sail Across the Atlantic segment. By points percentage, the Buffalo Sabres are in a playoff spot. We'll take a timeout. We'll look at the playoff race, and we'll take a sail across the Atlantic Division and the Metro too, here on the Locked On Sabres podcast with Joe DiBiase. Welcome back, Locked On Sabres, at Sneaky Joe Sports, at Locked On Sabres. The Sabres are in a playoff spot by points percentage. So they're kind of in a playoff spot. If you go to the official standings right now, they're going to be the first team out, not actually in a spot. But if you sort by points percentage, the Sabres are at .564, a 56.4 points percentage. Washington, who is currently in the second wildcard position, are now below the Sabres at 5.64. Sabres at 5.64, Capitals at 5.60. The Penguins won on Tuesday night against the Florida Panthers. So Pittsburgh stays 3 points ahead. No games in hand on Pittsburgh for Buffalo, but they gain a point on Florida. They're now 1 point above Florida and maintain 3 games in hand, but it's really Washington now that is coming into the window. Washington, 56 points in 50 games. They have played 3 more games than the Sabres. The Sabres have 3 games in hand. They just have to go 1-1-1 in those 3 games in hand to match Washington in the standings. We'll have to start thinking about tiebreakers soon. ROW, regulation and overtime wins, is the first tiebreaker. And Washington is at 25 while the Sabres are at 24. So pretty good math here. Pretty good math. The Sabres are, I think, in a good position to leapfrog Washington. They're going to have to really keep pace. And again, they'll have to stay ahead of Florida. I think Florida is a huge threat. That Florida-Pittsburgh game, by the way, man, 7-6. I don't know how many people were flipping back and forth when the Sabres game was at intermission to that game on ESPN+, but that was a 7-6 game. Florida tied the game late. Not a great result for Buffalo. You don't want 2 teams right around you going to overtime because now 3 points are given out instead of 2. So a late goal by Florida pushes the game to overtime. Chris Letang wins it in overtime. Pittsburgh, they've got their starting goalie, Tristan Jarry, back. They've got Letang back. So they're at near as full strength as they're going to be. So maybe Washington is the target here. Washington, by the standings math, is the team to target. They are old, and I guess you could hope that they're going to kind of flutter at the end of the season here and fall out of a playoff spot. By the way, the Capitals and the Penguins do play each other on Thursday. So just don't have that game go to overtime. I would actually kind of root for Pittsburgh in this game to pull away from Washington a bit and kind of fortify the Capitals as the team to catch for the Sabres at the moment. Florida, by the way, who have played 3 more games than the Sabres, they are not in action again until Friday night against the LA Kings. The Islanders in action on Wednesday night. So that's what's going on around the standings. Sabres at 53 points. Below them, Florida at 52, the Islanders at 51, and then above them in playoff spots, both Washington and Pittsburgh at 56, but the Capitals have played 3 more games. All right. That is going to do it for us here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. On tomorrow's show, we will preview Sabres and Jets. I'll hope to do better with my sneaky good bets for Sabres and Jets. So come back tomorrow, a rematch of a game from last week where the Sabres got goalied by Connor Hellebuck. I'm guessing it'll be Hellebuck again. By tomorrow, time of recording, we should be able to tell you what the goalie matchup looks like for Sabres and Jets. So come back tomorrow, and thanks for listening here on the Locked On Sabres podcast and making us your first listen every day.